All right, welcome back to the deep dive, everybody. We're diving into something a lot of you probably wondered about, the whole genetics thing and cancer risk. And lucky for us, there's some pretty cool new research to dig into. So we're looking at this super interesting article. It's from the Times, and it's all about this Stanford study that just came out in Nature, genetics.
Okay, sounds good.
So we're going to break it all down, really get into the nitty-gritty of it. What's it all about? What does it mean for you and me? The big questions.
Right.
And to help us out, I've got an expert on the line. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Happy to be here.
So this study, right, it's causing kind of a stir, which makes sense. They found like almost 400 of these tiny genetic variations, and they're calling them SNVs. And get this, they're linked to 13 of the most common cancers. So maybe you could break it down for us. Like, what exactly are SNVs, and why is this such a huge deal?
Yeah, so, we've known about some genetic links to cancer for a while, right? Like the BRCA genes, everyone's heard of those. But this is different. This is way bigger. Think of it this way. Your DNA is like a giant instruction manual for your body.
Makes sense.
And these SNVs, they're like typos, little tiny typos scattered all over the place, and you inherit them from your parents. And sometimes these typos can change how your cells actually work. And sometimes that mean a higher risk for certain cancers.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's not just like one or two genes, it's potentially hundreds of these tiny variations all kind of working together?
Yeah, it's a complicated picture, lots of factors at play. And what's really interesting is they found this link between SNVs and chronic inflammation.
Inflammation, yeah. I was reading about that. It's everywhere these days. Everyone's talking about inflammation. So how do these genetic typos, how do they actually cause inflammation? I don't really get that part.
Well, think about your immune system. It's your defense force, right? Always on patrol, looking for threats like viruses and bacteria, that kind of thing.
Right.
But these SNVs, they can kind of mess with the system. They can put your immune system on high alert, like all the time. So it's like constantly on edge, ready to fight. And that leads to low-grade inflammation, but it's chronic. It's always there.
Huh. So it's not just like one big attack. It's just this constant simmering thing.
Exactly, like a pot simmering on the stove. Maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but leave it on there long enough, things start to happen. Same idea here, that chronic inflammation can damage cells, and that can make cancer more likely to develop.
I see. Okay, so it's not just our genes then, right? It's also our lifestyle, the environment, all these things playing a role.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really exciting, because think about the possibilities for prevention. Imagine a genetic test, not just to tell you your risk, but to tell you exactly what to do about it. Personalized prevention tailored to your genes.
Hold on. So instead of just saying like, hey, you might get cancer, they could say, hey, here's how to make sure you don't.
Yeah, something like that. Like, let's say you have certain SNVs that are linked to lung cancer, right? They might advise you even more strongly to not smoke.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or, say, someone else has SNVs linked to colon cancer, they might need earlier and more frequent colonoscopies than someone else. And if you have SNVs that affect inflammation, well, maybe there are dietary changes you can make. Maybe there are therapies to target that inflammation directly.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like, instead of just being scared, you can actually do something about it. Take control.
Right.
That could totally change how we think about cancer prevention, couldn't it? It's not just one size fits all anymore. It's personal.
Yeah, it's super exciting. But, gotta be realistic, too. This is still early research. We need more studies. We need to figure out which of these SNVs are the most important. And then how to turn all this knowledge into actual, strategies that everyone can use.
Right. It's a great first step, but there's still a long way to go.
Exactly.
That's how science works, right?
Yeah.
It's a journey. So anyone listening who wants to learn more, get into the weeds, you can find this whole study in Nature Genetics. It's pretty mind-blowing. But here's the takeaway for everyone, right? We're not just, puppets of our genes. We have choices. What we eat, how we manage stress, all of that. It can affect how our genes work. So while we wait for all this cool personalized stuff to, become a reality, let's focus on what we can do today. Let's live healthy. Let's live well. Let's live our best lives. Until next time, this is The Deep Dive.